Hi everyone. Thanks for joining. I know it's late for few of you guys. It's early morning also for few of you guys. Thanks for your time. Okay, we can get started. It seems Greg is running a few minutes late. Venu is with us, so if it's okay, we can get started. So I would like to welcome all of you who have joined us today for the second edition of Dot Tech versus Tech sessions. Today we have a special guest, Greg. He'll be joining us soon. He is a serial entrepreneur, a techno startup personality from the US. He will be joining us soon. He is running a bit late for some reason. He has started his first venture back in 2002. He bootstrapped his first company called the Henson Group, where he's still the MD, and he has started multiple times along the time. And right now, he is venturing into the AI. Generative AI space too, with two, three products of his own. So he'll be sharing with us his insights, his learnings, his the skills he has learned on the way. Um, from Along with him, we'll be joined by Pai or Venu Gopal. He's the co-founder of Dot Product Solutions. We are a product development company based out of New York. We have offices in India as well as New York. So, without further delay, uh, uh, let me invite Pai to take over the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Vishnu. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, hi everyone. I can see a lot of friends that like people who we work with, and a lot of new people in the crowd. Great to have all of you here for this event. So, just a bit about myself. Before that, Vishnu, can you just confirm whether you are able to see my screen?
Yes, yes. We are able to see the screen, but the entire screen is getting shared.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, just getting started from just introducing myself here. Myself Venugopal Pai, so I'm a co-founder of Dot Product. Me and Vishnu started this firm like 4 years back, and before that we, I was working in the field of image processing, medical healthcare, and then we moved on and started working in pathology, and then both in software development and image processing, and then we have moved on to start our own firm. And currently we are working with many of our customers who are from New York, Florida, California, all of those areas, and then we are helping them achieve turn their ideas into reality. So that's what our focus has been for the last 4 years. And ever since the past 1 year, since the AI boom began, we have been kind of focusing on generative AI as not only as a technology but as a platform where we can expand onto. Have successfully, like one good thing is that we have been able to find partners who we have been able to work with using generative AI tech, and some of and we thought we'll put together a session just to give everybody a brief overview what is going on, and then they kind of give you examples of things that we have been doing, or examples of like kind of the tools that we have been using. So the main thing that we kind of want to focus on is not to be very technical and like very highly like modern, sorry, into coding and everything. So we want to kind of give you a high level overview so that you get a business use case understanding of the tools, and then examples that we are going into. Okay. So just feel free to jump in and raise your hands if you have a question. If there is anything that you would like, any question answered, or any points that you would like to add, I'm happy to answer if like if I know about it, or I'll get back to you with the details after this call. So getting started. So what is generative AI? I hope that since everybody here might have heard about it, since it's been a very prominent field in the last couple of years. So it's a subfield of AI that uses machine learning to generate content like videos, images, audio, text, you know, codes, etc. It started off with people generating, series, predicting what is the next, number in a list of numbers, and pattern identification and things like that. And then we moved on to having starting to generate text and images, video. We started off using GANs, and now we are using LLMs to generate all the content. Now, apart from the technical definition, what impact does it have? So the impact that it has is like it is revolutionizing many of the business operations like customer support, sales, decision making, and making many of those fields efficient. Especially communication, for example, since for the last 6 months, probably many emails that I'm getting are generated by AI. So kind of that helps. So that's the kind of impact that generative AI has made in business operations, decision making, and in efficiency. That is generative AI. So the popular real world uses of generative AI are as it's an image generation and enhancement. So we have been using that for creating images or enhancing images. You might have seen examples where there are video or images created um, completely by AI. It's like the video is not like deep faked or anything, but from scratch generated by AI. There are 3D shapes that are being created by AI, then audio generation, Bard. There are so many AI models nowadays that can create audio, can do text generation and code generation.
Sorry to interrupt, right?
Yeah.
So Greg has joined us. Welcome, Greg.
Yeah. Hi, Greg. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Greg.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Greg, we can hear you. Yes.
Excellent. Great.
So we were just getting started on the conversation, Greg. So yeah, before continuing, I would like to get started on your side of the conversation so that we can pitch in your thoughts as well. Greg, yeah. So Greg is, was one of our been our core members, core partners who we have been working with for generative AI. He comes with a lot of experience, like 25 years worth of experience in the business field, and then, he has been a Microsoft Partner of the Year for almost 6 times. He has built a big, global giant in Azure and cloud services, and he's currently, an investor, and also he's starting his new venture in social post AI. And we have been it's very happy that we have been able to be a partner with him in this new venture. Thanks for that opportunity, Greg. So we'd like to get a piece, understand, since you are a very popular influencer on LinkedIn and you have garnered a large following, like I would like to get your bit about what do you think about generating AI and how it impacts social media and marketing from your side.
Sure, definitely. Well, hello everyone. As Vinu said, my name is Greg Henson. I am based out of Miami in the United States, which is the southern part of the U.S. So it's pretty warm right now. It's 80 degrees today, so I can't complain from a weather perspective. But so as Vina was saying, I have a few different companies that I run. The first one that I started was about 20 years ago. It's hensongroup.com. They were a Microsoft partner. We're one of the largest Azure partners and resellers in the United States, UK, and Canada. So I know technology very well. I was very technical myself back in the day when I worked at Microsoft in their consulting group. But since then, I've gone on to found a few other companies. Several of them are tech SaaS startups. One in particular is called socialpostai.com, which uses generative AI to manage your social media for you. It helps you come up with post ideas. It writes the post for you. That's sort of a backend plugin into ChatGPT. It also creates the images for you based on the actual post itself, using generative AI for that as well. It's got scheduling backends, all the different platforms, and all that good stuff. And so it's an exciting project. We started it about 9 months ago, I'd say now, back in March. And I went through a pretty rigorous process of interviewing different development firms in India. Most of our Henson Group employees are in India, so I've always been comfortable working with Indian firms and Indian vendors, and have lots of employees from over there. So we did this huge interview process with probably 15 to 20 different dev shops over there. And Vinu and his firm was the one that we chose. They got the vision. They put together sort of the outline of what we would need. We had to do some analysis in the beginning when we were building this platform, socialpostai.com, in terms of what were the best generative AI tools to use, because the landscape was changing so quickly. They looked at Bard, they looked at OpenAI, they looked at a bunch of others, and they really helped partner with myself and my company to narrow down the options that are the best based on what we're trying to do. So that was great. And they knew a lot more about generative AI than I did or anyone else on my team did, and all the different options that were available. Because oftentimes when you get started with Gen AI, it's like there's so many different tools out there. You're not sure which ones are the best based on your use case. And so, partnering with a firm like dotproduct is really important to ensure the success of your AI deployment. That's the overview of how we've been working with Vino and his team to build out a GenAI product. We have a few other ones too. We've since deployed and set up. One of which is like an AI architect type of platform, where it's using AI to build architectural plans based on a set of criteria that you provided. So sort of taking a lot of the manual labor out of the architectural system and Gen AIing that using our own LLM and building on top of the knowledge of all the blueprints that sort of exist out there. And then we have another one that does like photographic Gen AI, where you can sort of describe the picture you want. It's very similar to Midjourney in a way, but it's API accessible. You can describe what exactly you want in the photo, and it will leverage backend connections to build out those images for you. So we really have 3 projects. The Social Post AI is the one that's farthest along, but we have 3 different projects we're working with Vinu, Vishnu, and dotproduct.
Thanks for the insight, Greg. So, as a business owner who has built many successful businesses, like, how do you see generative, like, how do you use generative AI nowadays in your day-to-day life, and how does it impact your businesses? How does it impact all the businesses that you are into?
Yeah, well, for all the companies that I work in, we've gotten an OpenAI subscription for all employees. So, and we encourage everyone to use it. This is sort of ahead of Copilot that Microsoft is launching. Eventually, OpenAI will sort of be embedded into Outlook and Word and the productivity tools. But since they're not there yet, we have subscriptions for our employees to go out and use it. But all our employees, including myself, I use OpenAI, at least a dozen times a day to help write an email or put together a presentation, put together cold outreach emails for some of the sales teams that we have. So it's it's already impacted our organization tremendously and will continue to do so. There's, I would say there's really no area. I mean, we just talked about using it for social media management help, using it to, architect buildings for you, using it to generate images. I mean, there's really no limit to what GenAI can do in your company and to disrupt existing organizations out there. You've already seen it, in the medical. It's moving pretty hard into the medical space, and I think they're saying that there's this new app, I can't remember the name, but basically it can look at all of the imagery for that. I forget the names of those doctors, the radiologists, I guess, that can scan your body and look for cancer. And it's not an exact science. You have to you got to study the image very closely to see if a tumor exists or not. Well, they built a whole LLM model based on all of these photos of tumors, fed it into this system, built an app around it, and the app can now detect tumors in those images like 2 times better than a human doctor can actually do it. So there's really no limit as to what you can do with GenAI and how it's going to disrupt, I think, every single industry out there.
Right. As a like really good salesman, what do you see like how it impacts sales? Like AI sales, like how AI impacts sales.
Right. That's a great question. I've already seen it disrupting sales. There are several apps that exist today. I wish I had thought of them. They're pretty smart, but they're using AI for prospecting, and they're automating that whole inside seller SDR role that a lot of organizations have when they're doing those sort of LinkedIn in-mails or email outreaches. I think they'll probably have phone calling too at some point if they don't have it already. But there are companies out there that are already building systems where you can put in all the stuff you sell, answer all the typical questions that you're going to hear, and they'll start emailing databases for you and trying to gin up interest among those the emails that you have. And so that can be all automated today. Whether it's through an email system, I also see that done now on, just this is sort of an older technology that people know about, but I think we're all probably familiar with chatbots. When you're chatting on someone's website, you're not really talking to a human, or you're talking to the bank or whatever. Like Gen AI has really revolutionized and brought back, in my opinion, the whole chatbot experience, because it's so much better. It really sounds like you're interacting with a human, but really it's just Gen AI in the background.
Right. I mean, nowadays, if you go to any website, you can see like a small pop-up coming up, and the first interaction starts within seconds. It's not like, several clicks later, right? It's like just a pop-up and you start typing in, there are questions coming up. So I think the
Yeah,
sales pipeline, kind of, you're part of the sales pipeline immediately. It's not like, previously when you had to wait minutes or hours before you had to, kind of, get
that's right.
started. So,
Yeah, I tell
like,
all our I tell all our customers, if you want to get started in Gen AI, just start with building that chatbot on your website, because you'll learn a lot about how it works and the API calls and how you need to feed it and train it. And it's a fairly quick deployment to get something like that up and running, and you'll learn a lot. Your team will learn a lot, and then from there, you can start building out larger or more complicated things. But the chatbot using Gen AI is typically the best place to start.
Right. So Greg, as Microsoft, having all your relationships in Microsoft startup program, having all those connects in Microsoft, and like yourself being an investor, and having your own venture firm called SalesEdge, and there are so many in our crowd who are CXOs, or like want to be entrepreneurs. What advice do you have for like all our founders, like any tips? Are there any startups that you want to add to your portfolio that you're looking for? Any of those inputs?
Sure. Yes. As Vinu mentioned, I also, one of the businesses I run is it's sort of my own fund where I invest in different startups. We have several companies we've invested in to date. And so we're always looking for, we don't really have like an investment thesis where it's like, we only want SaaS in healthcare. Like I think there's a shoe company in the UK I've invested in. There's which is like a traditional brick and mortar. There's SaaS companies, there's consulting companies, service-based companies. And so really, I usually like to get involved in investing with folks when it's at the idea phase, or they have an MVP set up, they have an idea, and they've gotten some traction, maybe some test users, and they've gone through, they have the idea pretty well thought out. And that's usually sort of the stage that I'd like to come in at and help. And with all the people that I've made investments, I'm also an advisor, and I'm helping them just grow their business. Having grown, multi-million-dollar businesses many times over, that advice often is just as important, if not more important, than actual funding.
True, like as a small business owner, the networking and the like introductions that you get from your investors, being getting an active investor is much more of a help than like more than money, right? Like money can only take you so far, but a correct or an active connection or an active introduction can like help us so much, like advice wise, or like getting a direction. Um, so yes, thank you so much, Greg. Thank you
Sure.
for your words and your advice. So I'll move on and move to like continuation of our presentation now. So
Was that a question for me, Vinu, or?
no, Greg, I was just
Okay,
mentioning
okay.
that
All right.
now
Thanks.
Right. Thank you so much, Greg. Yeah. So I'll move on to the presentation. Thanks. So can everybody see my screen? Vishnu?
Yes, we can.
Yes. So continuing off from where I left off, so these are the main areas in which we currently but we have seen generative AI being used very effectively. So image generation and image enhancement, these are the two areas that we have seen, or that we have also tried, or we have experienced. So text to image generation, we all know kind of what it is. You put in a set of text, like type in something and then you generate an image. The current state of technology is really good, but the really best ones are still inaccessible, or are kind of in preview, or in like an inaccessible state, or are facing infrastructure issues. So it's still an area, but the technology has taken a long leap. Like it's a large leap since the introduction. The more effective ones that we have seen is like image completion. You provide part of an image and then you ask it to generate something like replace background or change background and things like that. Those things come into effect, and you can change it. For example, take somebody who's standing in Tokyo and type in change background to New York. Suddenly you have an Empire State Building, or like the like the Wall Street or something in the background. So that kind of helps in image completion. So image generation and enhancement, text image generation, pretty straightforward. You type in something and then it generates an image for you based on the text that you put in. Image completion, same thing. You provide part of the image and then you ask it to do something else. For example, change the background, change the lighting or something. Suddenly takes converts the background from Tokyo to New York or something like that, or change the background. Semantic photo, image to photo translation, where you are not providing text as an input, but providing an actual image as an input, where you draw something in your hand, maybe a doodle, maybe provide another picture, and then then it's used for photo translation. Then there are image manipulation techniques, kind of using your style guides and all those things, where you take an image, then you put it through a transformer, and then you transform it in the way that you want. For example, maybe remove the background, convert it into cartoon-like images, and so forth. And finally, there is super image super resolution. where like you take an image and then you upscale it like two times, three times, etc. Kind of improves the quality, the clarity, etc. We have all seen effects of all of these things, especially if you are into gaming. There are so many effects of these things, advertisements, like Amazon, things like that. If you go there, if you regularly use that, many of these technologies have impacted many of those things, right? Nowadays, you don't see any Amazon image with the background, right? It's always just the product in a very good looking background. Similarly, for video creation, it's like us, simplifying the production, adding, like effects, for example, like, uh, predicting certain frames in between. Like you don't have to do end-to-end video. If you do first part of the video and if you put in the last part of the video, and if you want to kind of generate the middle part portions, add things like text changes or transfer sections and things like that. All of those things come in video style transfer. Take one video whose style you like and you want to transfer that style onto your video. There are cases in, there are currently generative AIs that can do these things. There is 3D shape generation. This is kind of using GANs and autoregressive models. We kind of like use like text based input. I'm not seeing image based input being used right now, but mostly text based input, and that can be used for generating 3D shapes. I've seen applications in 3D printing. We are not much into 3D shape generation, so no hands-on experience from our end, but like from experimentally I've seen it being used for 3D printing, a style transfer, and like virtual reality applications, things like that, where you can put in your content, and then you can ask it to generate it, and it will generate a 3D model, and then you can look around and use it in virtual reality, 3D modeling like Blender, things like that. I've also seen it being used for architectural applications, even though it's indirect. It's like you have an architecture model in mind, and then you can create an AutoCAD code, and then that AutoCAD code you can view it in AutoCAD. But it's really primitive, but can be, we have seen it being used. Audio generation is very exciting field. Creating your own music, especially background scores, which is a lot. It's very time consuming to create background scores, but here you can put in a few samples, type in your text. It creates a background score based on what like what you want to hear or see. Text to speech, again, very promising. Like previously, before generative AI, if you we have heard how the voice or the text generation, sorry, speech generation for many generators, where the voices were always unnatural. It was easy to recognize whether it's a robotic voice, but nowadays it is not possible. I mean, the Google did their bar demonstration by just demonstrating that it's indistinguishable, right? They showed how Bard was talking to customer service agent in a restaurant, and like the person did not even understand that it is a bot that is talking. Similarly, there is speech to speech conversion, which is mostly used in translation, so it's not limited to text anymore. Online, you can translate speech, like to speech conversion, convert things from, let's say, Spanish to English, Hindi to English, like that. But most, like the most prominent one that is being talked about nowadays, and like the most actively developed one, is text generation. We are all familiar with the Chat GPT and similar AI platforms, is like Cloud, and that is from Anthropic, and Llama from Facebook. All of these are being used nowadays. Recently, I came to hear about Falcon LLM. This is again becoming a benchmark in the industry. There are large, they are extensively trained on large data sets. It can be used for creative writing, conversation agents, translation, like marketing and advertising. Like if you're looking at your LinkedIn feed nowadays, there are many things that many posts that are being created by generative AI. Like fillers. Like if you're running a campaign, ad campaign, if you want a 5-day campaign, and you can create a 2 day, you can create a 2 to 3 day campaign and just fill it, ask to fill it, it'll create the next two things. Code generation for the developers in the crowd. Uh, yes, AI is being, taking over some of our coding tasks nowadays. Thankfully, the ones that we hate, especially coming to, like comments and documentation. That is one thing. Unit test generation, that is, what we call as test case generation, and then PR. Whenever you raise a PR, there are now so many bots in GitHub that will look into your PR and give you suggestions on things to change, right? Change the variable names and things like that. So you no longer have to rely on, like develop or, say, you don't no longer have to rely on somebody actively looking into your PR. The many of the basic things can be done by, like generative AI. They look into code completion, code generation. GitHub Copilot is a very good example. You can type in, this is the function that I want. It will generate the code for you. Similarly, if you give it a code, if you give it a function and ask it to create a test case, it will do that, and then automated bug fixing also. So these are the main areas that everybody currently is talking about in generative AI. I just wanted to give you some business use cases where we have used this, so that, if anybody here finds a similar problem, they can think about it in terms of generative AI, right? So many of these can be done by using traditional programs or traditional, like algorithms, other AI algorithms, etc. But we have experimentally ventured onto many of these, like use cases. And what we have felt is like, generative AI significantly improves the current state, or creates a whole new opportunity as well. So these are some of the. We just wanted to walk you through some of the examples, so that, like you can see the business use cases. So mainly, we our focus areas when we are that we are currently working is finance, and then finance, healthcare, real estate, and then marketing. These are the main areas that we are working when it comes to generative AI. What we are doing in finance, like how generative AI has helped us in finance, is mainly two areas. One is robotic process automation. So we have, like some of our projects, requirement where you extract information from documents, especially, when it comes to Indian loan documents, it is very difficult to extract information. If you see that the process is very complex, the documentations are many times like written in vernacular languages, or like bad grammar, all of those things sweep in. Plus, there is a lot of information that is within the main document. It's not in the sub documents, things like that. So, it's not in the proper written format. So we kind of, put those PDFs into our robotic process automation system, and then we ask several questions to it, checking for quality, checking for, information, like, what is the area, is it, like courses, license, things like that, and kind of, get that, extract that information. Then there is portfolio management that we try to, like kind of go into, kind of, generate summaries for our portfolio, like, let's say you have a financial portfolio that contains 4 to 5 stocks, right? So, or you want to have like like many other, like mutual funds and things like that, kind of, generate your summary, like, write about you by, taking, taking that portfolio and then looking at it, and then looking at the companies and what the companies work for, and things like that, and kind of generate the summaries, like reports. That's what we've been trying to do. So why we have been trying to, the experiment that we have been trying to do is, like many of the mutual funds in India, even though they are labeled in a certain way, the portfolio is kind of different. So, generating an active independent report by going through the details of each of the companies is very important. Credit scoring that has been mostly been experimental, but it is like employment, related credit scoring, right? Like currently most of the credit scoring systems are driven by numbers, right? Amounts and numbers. But in India, we have this unique case where, like there are several jobs that are very secure, like government jobs, bank jobs, public sector banks, and things like that, where the jobs are very much secure. So there's a higher preference or a higher credit rating for people who are coming from those employment backgrounds. Similarly, there is a differential treatment for people who are working in large firms versus small firms, things like that. So what we have seen is, processing or putting those details, like your employment details, your employment history, your education history, and so forth, and adding those as parameters into your credit scoring system actually helps, like give a better score, which actually, kind of relates with the market needs as well, right? Like somebody who's a new employee wants a loan, he wouldn't have a big salary history or anything to actually do the credit scoring with, right? So that person may fail the credit score test, but if he's working for the government and or a public sector bank, he's guaranteed job for life and pension for life. So why would somebody not give a loan, right? So that's some of the use cases. Again, in healthcare, what we are the three main things that we have been trying to do is, do disease diagnosis, improve data analysis, and then create personalized treatment plans. But what we have been mostly doing is actually, like u- using generative AI to generate clinical and simulated data, right? For example, let's take the case of pathology. Okay, you have a certain algorithm. For example, let's say a focus algorithm, or like you want to have, like your pathology sample tested and treated in a certain way. You have several algorithms that you are using to, like optimize this process, right? Now all of these algorithms are, need to be tested in different conditions, and it's very hard to get bio samples for all the 300 to, like 500 different cases, right? Instead, if you have samples for, let's say, 30 samples, which covers many different cases, you can put that together into a image generation system, and then type in something like generate a sample, which has, let's say, an HNE stain on a tissue sample, something like that. Put those two things together. You are creating, an AI generated sample, and then you can test your algorithm. So you can test that verification, you can do your verification. This has greatly improved the, like outcome. For example, why? Because the medical approval process is very complicated. The acquisition of biological samples, biosamples, like doing testing on biosamples, things like that, require ethical code approval and all those things. So before going for any of those things, you can just, test out all the things that you want to do based on whatever algorithm or whatever technology that like whatever data that you have, right? You can combine many of the data, tag it through the system. Uh, like then you can use the text to image generator to generate the output, and then do your verification. And if everything works, and you have your MEP or POC, now you can go forward. You don't have to spend many time, like uh, going through the ethical board and all of those things, right? You can verify it, and then you can go, which makes it a little bit more easier, and reduces the risk that, what if your algorithm does not work eventually. Similarly, recently I've seen a good AI startup. As not I we are not directly linked, but I've seen a AI startup in Toronto who are doing personalized treatment plans. Their goal is, kind of, put together many of, like whatever conditions that you have. It will ask you questions. It will ask you, like how, variables. It will do differential diagnosis, and then come up with a personalized treatment plan. Even though it's early stage, that's a good potential, right? Um, one of the projects that is, we are kind of in discussions is like for non-profit. So there is a lot of governmental agencies or like areas like in Africa, in Southeast Asia, where there's a large shortage of medical professionals. So in those cases, you can just open up a chatbot, talk, and do preliminary verification. And if advanced verification is required, you can pass it on to the medical professionals. So that's the area. Again, moving on. So real estate, it was mostly experimental, but it's yeah, it's mostly like property valuation. So we have done the same thing as as I mentioned earlier. In finance, it's like take the loan documents, the property documents, you kind of go through it and try to understand like how the property will be valued, look at the naming, conditions, how, like by looking at the document, how the descriptions is, whether it is a, multi-story building, whether it is in a popular area, things like that, and all of those things, and put together a valuation for the same. We have a valuation platform that can do this. It has also a manual override so that the valuers can use it. Similarly, we try, like try to do pricing optimization as well. But what we have seen, like uh, in terms of pricing and valuation, is that the outputs are much more, much differ much from the, like the actual values. So not being able to see that much success there, but I think it's a really good use case, like where there are hundreds of thousands of documents that are required for especially commercial and large scale buildings and things like that, and putting them to data quality verification, like whether checking whether all the documents come like the standards and all of those things, that can be the time complexity for all of those things can be greatly reduced through GenAI, and that's one of the areas that we ventured into. Lastly, yeah, in partnership with Greg and like Social Post AI, we ventured on to the marketing side of things where like we have been using generative AI for content creation. So content creation, mainly it's like what we have seen is many influencers don't post anything uh, in social media because they have a writer's block, right? So they know what topic that they want to write for, but they don't know how to start or where like how to generate content for the same or things like that. Like how to phrase things because they are not familiar with putting content day to day, right? So yeah, so this remove through social post AI, one of the main things that we are trying to do is to block the like unblock and unlock your creativity. So here, like you put in a topic, you get your content creation samples. You can take any one of them and modify it according to your requirements. Put your own tone changes and things like that. Sometimes even there are many cases where we've seen the block is because like lack of like topic ideas. See, one main factor in determining how your profile like shows up in LinkedIn and how it becomes popular is through continuous engagement with your crowd. Okay, so when you are continuously engaging with your crowd, you build a following, and that's how you become popular in media, social media. So that means that there will be days in which you will have a writer's block or a topic block, and then but to build your consistency, you will have to write a topic. So for then we have created a separate stream where you can identify trending topics, current topics, things like that, and put that together and can create content for those things. We are working on a separate mini project for generating video ads and product demos. So like that's another thing. Like the, many many of the social media influencers I've seen are very camera friendly, but there are so many. Maybe since I'm coming from tech, I feel that many of us techies are not camera friendly. Like you don't see developers putting any screen shares or videos and things like that. So I think that is where generative videos and generative images can really come in. You type in what you want to show or what you want to generate an example of what you want to do, and then click generate. That video comes in, and as you know, videos and images have a higher rate of percentage of engagement than text content. So like, that also helps a marketer. Plus, things like creating content structure. When I say content structure, like like let's say you are running a company profile. Your company profile description should change on a day-to-day, not a day-to-day, but on a 3 month or a quarterly or a half-yearly basis. Like, let's say new technologies coming, new words are used in the industry and so forth. Then you have to bring in all those things into your company profile and things like that. So creating that content structure, you put in some information about your company, and then some of the new trending words and hashtags, and then you click generate, you get a content structure for your company, and then you can add and remove things that you like and don't like, and then final content goes into your LinkedIn. So that kind of helps people optimize their professional and business profiles, make a unique, make like individual contents for each of their web pages. Like say one for LinkedIn, one for Facebook, etc. Depending on their crowd. So these are the main areas that we have been working with. So I'll open up for questions. Does anybody have any questions or any topics that any questions that they would like to ask?
I thought this was great. I'll just add some comments here. Um, there's really no limit to what you can do here, other than just your imagination. But I think it's really important if you're looking to set up a new company or build a startup around Gen AI. It's really important to it's got to be different than just like ChatGPT, because if people can just go to ChatGPT and do the same exact thing, it's not really adding a lot of value. So you got to figure out, what can I add on top of what ChatGPT does, or can I combine multiple AIs to wrap around a product or a solution? But it's got to do a little bit more than what ChatGPT can do. It's got to add some value. That's where it can get a little tricky when you come up with the business model and the business plan for yourself. But really, there's no limit to what you can do. In the two companies I mentioned earlier, the photographic one and the architectural one, I actually partnered with folks that are subject matter experts in that area. And oftentimes, that's a really good place to start. If you know an architect, if you know a real estate agent, if you know an insurance agent, if you know people in that profession, and you go to them and you sit down with them and you talk to them and say, hey, I'd like to build this with you, and let's be partners in on this, and help me understand the inefficiencies in your business model or in your industry, and let's build a Gen AI solution around that to address it.
Right, good. Yeah, I think that is exactly correct, because like for the like especially for real estate and like the areas that we have worked with, like what we bring onto the table, like what the product brings onto the table is the subject matter expertise, right? Like you need the expert to come in and put in the parameters, and without the parameters, it's not possible to build anything, like build that quality into that product. So that's very much important. Even for image generation, I think one of the things that we tried out in one of the image generation that we tried out, we like if we were not working with a subject matter expert, we would not have noticed many of the disparities or many of the issues that like that came up in the image processing area. Like it's like some for a normal developer or a normal person looking at that image, you would not have ever found a mistake or issue with that generation. But a subject matter expert definitely like that is the current caveat also. Like if you don't have an expert who is looking into what is being generated, you don't know how whether the AI is hallucinating. You don't know whether it is generating the wrong thing, whether you don't even know whether it is generating the right thing, because it may just stray off and generate things or hallucinate on things and then generate. Um, that's one thing that we have seen from experience. Thank you, Greg, for adding that point. Anybody in the crowd want to ask any questions? It's open up for discussions.
Um, so you can raise your hands or use the Q&A section of this meeting, this webinar for asking the questions.
I'll just say if anyone's working on a startup or interested in getting started and you're looking for an investor or an advisor, please keep me in mind. I put my website into the chat. I'll also drop in my LinkedIn profile so you can shoot me a connection request. Or if you know someone that is looking for outside investors, send them my way. I'd appreciate it.
Wonderful, Greg. That's so generous of you. So I double that. Please do reach out to him if you're looking out for a great, advisor, and of course, as an investor too. So I hope everyone can is able to speak, or at least let's use the chat then. So you can ask the questions or raise a hand in the chat itself. Otherwise, we'll move on.
Sure, sure. So, thanks everybody for joining. So, this was like kind of our second .TechVerse community event where we try to like engage with the crowd, like our tech crowd and founders and business owners. So this was done in partnership with Social Post AI and Kera Startup Mission. We have been, uh, very much thankful to both the groups for like partnering with us and helping us through many years on our venture and our product. Thank you, Greg, for joining and providing us its insight. It's very great to have somebody who has business experience, talk about give us insight from a business standpoint of view. Mostly it has been a tech discussion so far. So thank you so much for that. Thanks for joining. For everybody else, thanks for joining. So like nice to have you all. From New York or joining early, midday, and thanks for spending your time on weekend. Listening to and being part of the Dog Techverse. So before we leave, two things. One is, like we currently are running a monthly series. So if you want to join, please do follow us on dotproduct. That's in LinkedIn. We'll put that into our chat and email. Similarly, we are also looking. We are currently running our beta in Social Post AI. So if you would like to try that out, please to join the wait list. We'll also send out the details and website information along in email as well. So that's it. Thank you. Thanks everyone for their time. Thanks, Greg. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks, Vishnu.
I just want to add to that. We will be sharing the recording of the session to all the participants via email. We'll have follow-up slides also shared in the email. We do have other channels. We have a WhatsApp channel. We do have group in Telegram too. So all the details will be there in the emails that follow this event. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Some of you, good night too. Bye bye.